Man plays the Amusements. Now, I know that's like based on a kinda all joystick sort of Atari 2600-ish type of thing. But that's what it's got, which is more a console than a. But it doesn't really matter. Let the story commence. Craig went to a seaside town that he used to go to when he was wee, and he remembered. Oh, that's where we used to jump in the water. Oh, that's where we actually smashed that window once. And there's the arcade that I used to go to, the Amusements. So still open it. It'll be full of gamblers. It'll be full of puggies, fruit machines. It'll be full of all that. There's no money in the arcade games anymore. Who plays them? All the stuff in the house is better. Your computer or your console is more powerful than what you would get in a fucking arcade. He went in expecting just to see like fucking what that. It was all the old late 80s, early 90s arcade games. Mid 80s. He walked in and it was the sort of like early 90s stuff. It was like Mortal Kombat 2, Street Fighter 2. It's like, no way. They've done it up as a kind of retro sort of thing. And then there was a wee bit at the back. He walked a wee bit for his wee step that went up and he went back there. He looked about, everybody he was looking at folk and everybody looked a bit coincidentally, because of the fashion these days, there's some like youngsters, teenagers, and they were wearing like kind of like baggy denims and stuff like that, which is sort of coming, and that's a bit a kind of throwback to the 90s. Some of the clothes are kind of reminiscent of that. And there was a wee step. There's a wee step at the back. And he went up and he went there. And some of the machines in there were more late 80s, kind of late 80s, like your kind of, or mid 80s, your kind of, maybe, well, it's not quite late 80s, but, maybe mid, kind of mid, you're sort of Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom, that kind of thing. It's like, look at that, they've got all this. And there was some teenagers there as well. And they had some of that kind of throwback gear as well. Like it wasn't like a T-shirt that said the Goonies or anything like that, but they were kind of dressed like what he remembered. The sort of like that late 80s sort of clothes, kind of influenced by fucking Acid House and all that. A wee bit, slightly sort of mad Chester, but no quite. Um, he thought they must be that's no fashion right now. They must be the types who are like, oh, I'm into retro stuff and they dress like that, and so they're attracted to places like this. That's what that must be. But he did start to get a wee feeling something strange here. And he walked a wee bit further back. He used to come into this arcade when he was younger. And he went up the back. And it was like early 80s, fucking late 70s, early 80s. It was like your fucking, your Space Invaders. Um, your Asteroids. Your Battlezone. Your Defender. Your Pac-Man. Your Galaxian, your Goth. Tron was there. which actually looked a bit fucking modern compared to the rest. It was the classics. And he looked a bit, and there's some teenagers there, and they had like bowl cuts and all that. They kind of red and blue sort of t-shirts and just quite borderline 70s look. And you know what he noticed? They were on their phone. Talk about high scores and all that. He thought, I'm going to have a wee shot. He's like, how much is this going to cost then? Fucking £1. He looked. Fucking what's that? What? Fucking 10 pence. Savage McCabbage says, when does the violence start? It's like, get 10 pence? Does 10 pence even exist anymore? He was looking a bit and he saw one wee guy about 7 or 8, and he just sort of clocked his face for the side. He thought, fuck me, that wee guy is a fucking double of me, how I remember how I was. It's weird, same features for the side, looked the same. And the clays really took him back. He's like, I had something like that. I remember having a top like that. And he heard like some woman shout, Craig, hurry up. He's like, Craig, that's funny, that's my name. And the wee boy turned and ran away. And I swear to God, he was like, Craig went like that. That's me. And he looked a bit in this arcade. He's like, wait a minute. What? Have I went back in time? And so he went back to towards the front of the arcade. That, the exit or the entrance. And then he went to, kind of late 80s stuff, and then, the 90s stuff. And it's like, this is fucking mad. That wee boy ran out, and he looked. And he saw the woman gone away with the boy. And it just came right out of his mouth. He just went like that. Mum? This woman was the spitting image of his ma. And that is fucking... He thought to himself, this is like some Twilight Zone. There's about 5 fucking old Twilight Zone episodes that are just like this. Guy goes back to where he used to grew up and all that, and kick the can or whatever the fuck it was, or sort of playing, and there he is, he's back as being a wee guy again, or some shit like that. Or gets a chance to sort of right some wrong, or, that kind of thing. Remembers that it wasn't as good as what he remembered it as. Is that what's actually happened? He thought, don't be ridiculous, that doesn't happen. What's probably happened is this is a kind of, the arcades obviously went like that. We'll make it all kind of retro. We'll just stick to, we've got all the old arcade stuff lying about, all the old, the boards, the chip boards and all that, the actual, the stuff inside the cases, the cabinets. We've got them lying about. Instead of binning them, we could stick them back in a retro arcade fucking thing. And he's like, it fucking works. Because the effect it had on me, thought Craig, was I actually hallucinated in a way. I saw a wee guy who reminded me of myself so much that I thought, is that me? I lost the fucking plot there. You know, when it takes you back that much, and you forget. You know, it's not real. You lose the plot for a wee second. Anyway, he was needing a shite, and he's like, "Where's the? I know where the toilet is." And he went back to the kind of middle, halfway to the back. The kind of mid-80s bit. He knew it was there, and he looked to the right, and there it was. There's the toilet, and he went in, and it's one of the toilets that's got like two urinals and a cubicle. Two urinals right next to each other. So I'm no fucking stoning here pissing next to some cunt. I mean, nobody was there at that point, but somebody will come in. Do you know, it would just feel fucking weird. So he went for the cubicle. The door was open a wee bit. So he pushed the door open, right, and somebody fucking kicked the door shut for the inside. Right, Neil took his fucking finger off, kicked the fucking door shut, and then locked it. And Craig went, aye, all right. And the voice for the side went, voice for the inside went like, what? And Craig went like, yeah, all right, well, lock the door, mate. It's fucking locked, fucking shut. Fucking shut up. And the guy actually did that. He kind of stumbled out his words a wee bit. And Craig thought, oh, this guy's scared or something. And Craig went like, why not hear and say that? And the silence. And then Craig walked away. He went, no, fuck that. He turned around and kicked in the cubicle door. And there doing a shite was a guy that looked just like Craig, but older. You know that one before that looked like Craig, but younger? This isn't, but older. This is Craig, but older. And the two of them just looking at each other like that. And the older Craig stood up, wiped his arse, very, very briefly. It was like one wipe, and the boggle was covered in fucking shite, but he just left it there, right? He just thought, that's enough, fuck it. And he walked, did he wash his hands? And he just walked past, they just looked at each other, walked past old Craig, like that. And old Craig went, the fuck was that? And then Craig went into the piss, it was humming a shite. Strangely though, he didn't really mind the smell of that shite. So he did a piss, and then he left, and then see when he came out, it was the same machines, right? But here's the thing. You know how at the entrance it was like kind of late 80s, early 90s machines? Well, 90s. And then halfway into the arcade it was like mid, kind of late 80s. And then at the back it was like almost like late 70s, early 80s, like Space Invaders. And he was in the middle bit. That's where the toilet was. When he came out, and he was meant to come out at at the kind of late 80s bit, so it's like Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom, fucking Pac-Land, if you remember that. Maybe, some of the kind of sort of slightly later ones like Wonder Boy and all that, good sound, still a bit pixely, but, it's that kind of thing. That wasn't there anymore. At the middle bit, which should have been like 80s, was now your Street Fighter 2s, your Mortal Kombat 2s, your 90s. Right? So that stuff, like the most recent retro stuff, had moved back one into the arcade. And then see at the back of the arcade, because there's three sections, the entrance bit, which is like the 90s stuff, then it was kind of mid 80s, and then it was like the early 80s at the back. The early 80s, you know, the Space Invader stuff, hold on, listen. The Space Invader stuff had gone and was now replaced by that kind of mid 80s stuff, you know, like Wonder Boy, that kind of mid to late 80s. Where he came out in the middle bit, that was now the 90s stuff, and he's like, well, wait, what? And he turned and walked towards the entrance of the arcade where the early 90s stuff used to be. And now, there, the retro stuff there was no longer 90s, but more modern stuff. It was like PlayStation 4s and PC gaming. It had like you know, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto 6 and things like that. Had PS6, Grand Theft Auto fucking 6 and all that. It's like, what? That's not even out yet. How is that retro? And then he went, right, this is mental. And he walked out the front of the arcade onto the street. And he nearly got knocked down. He nearly got knocked down. Do you know what he nearly got knocked down by? Well, first of all, on the pavement, he nearly got hit by somebody going past on a fucking hoverboard. He tripped up and then nearly got hit by a fucking motor that was floating. It was only when he fucking hit the ground. He normally would have went under the wheels. There were no wheels. And see, when you hit the road, normally you would hit against that, you know, that kind of tarmac, that whatever the fuck is, and hurt your head. But it just sort of kind of softened him, and a bit like light. It was like light, spongy light. Fucking what? It's like and you look down, you could see through it. You can see all the pipes underneath, and it's like all like neon and all that. He turned around, he went, here. What the fuck's going on? And then this really fucking old guy, really old, like 150 or something, came up to him, and he was like in a kind of, like a machine sort of thing. It was kind of like a sort of wheelchair sort of thing, but it was floating. He was dead old. It was floating. It went. And it looked just like Craig, but old. And Craig went, do I know you? And this old cunt went like that. I've been waiting here for ages for you to turn up. Do you remember I did that shite? Craig went, that was you, bro? And this guy went like that. We swapped places. I ended up going back to your time. You came into my time. You saw the younger us, Craig went, yo, whoa, younger us? Uh, can someone explain this to me like I'm like a 6-year-old? And the one that was in the kind of floating thing went like that. When you went into that arcade, it had this, like the retro, it took you back and you actually saw the old you there. That was you actually saw. And then when you went into the toilet, that was actually, the older you, me. You're the younger me. And we swapped accidentally. You were meant to leave before me, but I left first because you interrupted me when I was doing a shite. And when I came out, I'd went back and into your time. Said the older one. So I had to go and fucking relive all that time again to get to this point right now. You've went forward in time. Back to my time. Which took me about fucking, 50 odd years to get here. Craig went, I think I follow you. And older Craig said, look behind you. And behind Craig was a guy that was identical to Craig, same age and everything. And he went like that this new one was like, whoa, why do you look like me? Why do you look like me but really old? And Craig went, right, so you're the younger me. Now you've grown up to my age. You're the older one who had to kind of, right? So, what do we do now? And the older Craig went, that doesn't matter. The main thing is this. All this retro carry on. It's making you live in the past. Do you know what I mean? You're reliving it. I've been spending my time here at this arcade waiting for you hanging about here instead of just getting on with it. And all the retro stuff just keep me in the past. And then someday in the future we'll be, looking back at, oh, what was it like back then? It was back then it was full of people looking fucking back, further behind their time. So you go to a concert, all these people down the front row with their phones in the fucking air, no living in the moment. And the younger Craig, the new one, went like that. Okay, think I'm going to leave you two guys to it. And the older Craig went like that. No, we need to sort this out. We need to all go into the cubicle and get this sorted out. So they all went into that cubicle, which now, by the way, because old Craig went like that, we're not going to fit in there. There's no room. But when they opened the cubicle door, tiny wee cubicle, but when you got in, it was a lot bigger, TARDIS style. And then they're like, well, what now? And the older one went like that. We have to all do a shite. We have to mix the shites. So, younger one goes first. And the two Craigs, so, the kind of new ones, but I think we may be the same age. Is that right? Right. Look. You, the time travelling one. Right, you go second. You the one that's no time travel yet. You do that. You do the shite first, right? I don't get it. Just do it. We're going to try it. And he did a shite. And it was like a kind of brown, right? He stood up. Our Craig then did it. Ready to flush it? Don't flush it, said the older one. Did a shite on top of that one. And his shite was a slightly darker brown and a bit harder. Right? And then the old one, a pipe sort of thing came out of the floating thing that he was in. And that did a shite, and it was all like kind of, it was like white. It was a white kind of brick, rectangular sort of brick. It looked like a Dairy Crunch, white chocolate Dairy Crunch, but fucking thicker. Wee bumps in it here, I'll show you. Is that what it's called? Milk Crunch, Dairy Crunch. Dairy Crunch, white. Nestle Crunch. Where did I get Dairy Crunch for? Like that. It looked like... Where is it? There was one that had wee bits in it. It was like that, in fact. It was just like that. It came out like that. It slid out perfectly. Like Han Solo in the carbon thing. And the older one said, we need to mix the shite. And Erd Craig went, that's not going to mix, your one's too hard, it's all whatever the fuck that is in your machine there. You're going to have to heat it up then. So Erd Craig had to go right, heat in the pan and go onto the shite, you know, to fucking melt it. Held it in his hand for a bit like that. Then mixed it. And went, I think that should be it. So then the kind of new Craig went, right, so what am I supposed to do? You were meant to actually stay outside because you're in the right time zone, time thing. You're meant to be out there. So, this might be fucked, I don't know. Now he tells us. But you go out first and maybe last. Right. Who came in the toilet first? We got, oh no, I don't know. Why is that relevant? Right, listen. You go, young, new one, you go out first, said the old one. You go out first. Right, well, be seeing you, I guess. And he went out, right? And then Erd Craig was about to go out, right, me next. And then the older one went, no, actually, I'll go. We'll go with the kind of like the youngest one, sort of, you know what I mean? Then the oldest one, and then the sort of like in between, you know, kind of Goldilocks. And Erd Craig went like that. I don't know, we on about Goldilocks. You know, kind of like, no too hot, no too cold, just right. Craig went, I just don't know how that makes any sense. That doesn't... Do you know what you're doing? And the older Craig went like that. Look, we've got to, none of this makes any sense. So I think what we've got to do to combat it and reverse it is to do something that doesn't make any sense back to it and really fucking hit it hard. Hit what hard? Whatever the fuck it is. So Craig, so the old one went out and went, I suppose this is the last time I'll be seeing you, said the old Craig. And Craig went, away you go. And the door shut. And then Craig went, oh, well, here goes nothing. And then Craig opened the door, with his eyes shut, opened his eyes, and there in the arcade was stuff for the sort of mid to late 80s, the way it was when he first fucking came in. So Craig went, I think everything's back to normal. And Craig looked at the back of the Amusements. There's Space Invaders old stuff. The one he was in was the mid to late 80s, and then he walked to the front of it, 90s stuff, and he walked out. And he thought, I think everything's fine now. But there, in the distance, he still saw that wee boy who was like the kind of like younger him. And he thought, did that even happen? And he walked up to the maw that looked just like his maw. And went, hey, sorry to disturb you, but can I speak to your kid for a second? What's that about? Said this the maw. And he went, you'll be here, right, present. Not want to speak privately to him. So, what's that about? Can I do it? We'll go. What is it? This man wants to speak to you, Craig. Hey, Craig. My name's Craig as well. I just want to say, little guy, when you're playing games, like, it's just what I want to just say. Whenever you're playing games, really live in the moment with these games. And as you get older, and there's new games, and new consoles, and new advancements in gaming technology, go with it and push it. Don't just keep looking back and go, I remember when when you were this age, and you're like, oh, I remember like it was like this, and oh, it was great, and like don't look back. Always just keep pushing it, and actually keep in the communities and Reddit and so on. Really push it, with PlayStation and so on, and say, I think we need to keep pushing, keep complaining. Don't keep being stupid. No, foolish. What was it Steve Jobs said? And he said that to them all. What? I don't know what. He finished? No, not yet. Stay stupid. Stupid. Foolish. And really push it. Get them to push it. Keep saying to them, just keep moaning, this isn't good enough. Push, push, push. So that, you're always living in the moment. You're not like going into some sad retro arcade and going, oh, these are the games that I used to play, on Instagram looking at old stuff. And I remember that. I remember I was so much happier when I was like, that age. Just make the present day the happiest that you can be. And the more went like that, right? That was actually really nice you saying that. So this woman, even though it wasn't his ma or anything like that, right? Just kind of looked like the boy kind of reminded him of himself when he was that age. He just feeling a wee bit kind of retro minded, and he said him and that woman really hit it off, and they ended up in a relationship. He tried to tell himself she doesn't really look like my ma. They ended up having a wedding. And when the wedding popped out, it looked old as fuck. Like that Craig for the future. And when he was holding it in the hospital, it opened its eyes, old as fuck. I don't mean just wrinkle, I mean old. And went like that. So what did just said to him? It just popped out. Just what did you fucking do that for? And then did this big fucking shite. The end. Because of the story involved shite. Now everybody, I said that as if it was an improv story just off the top of my head. In fact, it's actually based on a true story. What's it based on? It's actually inspired by true events. What true events? Arcade games exist. There you go. That's what it's like these days, isn't it? Film or a program goes like that. Oh, based on a true story, inspired by true events, true story, and it's like